On the Romans' right flank were 6,000 Numidian cavalry led by the recently promoted King Massinissa. On the left, approximately 2,700 cavalry were led by Roman Quaestor Gaius Laelius. Finally, a small reserve of men stood in the rear. Hannibal initiated the battle by ordering his elephants to charge toward the Roman army. The elephants had proved a tremendous asset against nations who had never before faced them. However, Roman generals had wrestled with these beasts generations ago, against King Pyrrhus and again against Carthage in the First Punic War. By the time of the Battle of Zama, they had developed an effective counter. The Romans greeted the elephants with shouting, blaring trumpets, and a cacophony of noise from the Roman troops. This tactic, intended to startle the elephants, was effective, and the frightened elephants turned away from the Romans and charged down the empty lanes between the maniples. Rome's light infantry ran to the sides to avoid the lumbering beasts, then attacked. The elephants on Rome's right were pushed back by the light troops into Hannibal's Numidian cavalry, causing disarray. The alert King Massinissa saw this and charged with his own cavalry, seeking to capitalize on the confusion. He succeeded, and the Carthaginian mercenary cavalry were quickly routed. On the other flank, the Roman cavalry's superior numbers and training allowed them to defeat Carthage's remaining cavalry and chase them off the battlefield. At this point in the battle, only infantry remained. Scipio quickly realized that the first two ranks of the Carthaginian force were larger than his own. He was also worried about the soldiers from Gaul attacking the flanks of the Roman maniples as they had done in previous engagements. To negate this tactic, Scipio changed his army's formation. He ordered the Hastati in front to close the gaps between the maniples, eliminating this vulnerability. Meanwhile, the Principes and Triarii were to overlap the flanks in order to protect and support the Hastati. Once the Romans had formed up, they charged. Carthage's mercenary infantry fought bravely, but were ultimately no match for the discipline of the Roman Hastati and were driven back. Hannibal's second line advanced to support the front line, but they did this so lethargically that many of the mercenaries thought that they were being deserted by their allies. A few actually turned against the second line and fought them rather than the approaching Hastati. The second line stood firm, however, and the remains of the mercenary forces were pushed to the side. As the battle continued to rage, the Hastati were beginning to tire. However, thanks to support from the Principes, the Carthaginian second line was definitively broken, causing great disorder. The retreating forces were again driven to the side, this time by Hannibal's third and final line. With the first two Carthaginian lines out of action, only 24,000 men remained. This, however, included all of Hannibal's elite veterans. Scipio, worried that his flanks were vulnerable, ordered the Principes and the Triarii to close their intervals as the Hastati had done earlier. The Triarii then flanked the Principes, who in turn flanked the Hastati. After this reorganization, the front presented by the Hastati and Principes alone was approximately as wide as that of Hannibal's entire line. Scipio's forces now numbered 28,000, not including his light troops in reserve. Time was on Scipio's side. While he probably was irritated that his cavalry had taken so long to return, he knew that he could hold out and wait for them if necessary. Hannibal, however, was not so fortunate. His only chance of victory was to crush the Roman army before their cavalry returned. Hannibal committed the rest of his forces to the battle. The fighting was intense, and for a while it was a stalemate. Neither side was gaining or losing ground. Then Massinissa and Lelius returned with the Roman allied cavalry. They attacked from the flanks and the rear and decimated the Carthaginian force.
Whatever